or if you're watching this on YouTube afterwards. And Shannon, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I'm Shannon Scheller, mom of Paisley and cancer survivor of 8 years. So I fell onto season and kit cancer just over 8 years ago at the beginning of diagnosis, and I just have always wanted to give back and love on the community. My heart is still there, even though my kid is no longer fighting. Well, I mean, it's still always cancer prevention, right? So we're still living that life and wanting to keep things clean and still detox and do all the things that we learned as prevention. But today, we get the pleasure of speaking and learning from James Berry, who has 20 plus years experience in the culinary field as a private chef, even cooking for celebrities. Like who did you cook for, James?
Oh, Tom Cruise and George Clooney, Gerard Butler, a little bit
Okay,
with,
I love Gerard.
yeah,
Is he
Barbara
as great
Streisand a little
as
bit.
is he as great in person as he is?
He's just a regular guy. Yeah, he's just fun. Lots of fun times with him. But yeah, he's just a normal Scottish guy.
I love him. Okay, but back to Chef Barry, who also started a food delivery service called Wholesome to Go for about 8 years or so, and then a recent started a podcast, and then creating what I like to refer to as functional food product that makes it easy and a delicious way of adding organ meats. Um, so I do feel that parents often struggle with making organ meats appealing to their children. So I love how versatile and um, hidden it is in your seasoning. I think it's brilliant, a brilliant tactic. Well done. So, um, just to start this off, though, your journey into creating the organ meat seasoning um, is just fascinating. But let's go back in time to what got you for your passion in cooking to begin with.
Yeah, well, picky eater, very picky. Didn't have my first taco until I was in like college. So
Really?
still to this day, I've never had a real hamburger with the bun and everything. I was eating paleo before it was even a term. I would when my family would travel across the country, we'd go to like McDonald's because most families did back in the day, um, and they would have to specially order my hamburger. This is all even people may forget like McDonald's used to just be hamburgers. They didn't even have, I remember when they first got chicken nuggets. Like it was like, I finally don't have to order a hamburger. A special order. So they would special order the hamburger. It would come plain, and then I would pull the meat out from the bun and then crumple it all up, not eat the bun, and then throw it away to make it look like I was a normal person. So totally eating the meat without the bun before it was even cool. Um,
So you didn't, before they said it was protein style.
Yes, exactly. I invented the protein style without knowing it through picky eating. And yeah, so really understand picky eating because I come from that. And also and really came to cooking uh, just from passion. It I later learned or articulated that it was kind of my way of my love language. It's my way of expressing to people how I feel for them. But most of all, cooking was like a hobby. I didn't see it as a career. I mean, back in the day, I think there was two chefs on PBS, and it was like Julia Childs and the Frugal Gourmet, and it was like you either worked at a restaurant late at night or you didn't. You worked in back of a kitchen in a cafe or something. Like there just wasn't a lot of options. So I saw it as a hobby, and then later on, I just about got to my 30s and I was just kept feeling very restless and just feeling like, I'm here for something else. And I was pursuing other careers and I kept going back to like, gosh, I just love cooking. What am I doing? I want to be helping people. And by that time, I was articulating that I wanted to help people with their health. And then I went to culinary school not too soon after 9/11. 9/11 was like the catalyst. It was that moment that I'm sure everyone on this call has experienced where your life gets turned upside down, and you just realize life is short and I got to make every moment count.
I love that. I love that. And we definitely need more people like you advocating for health and being the entrepreneurs of the future of what health looks like, because we've definitely taken a turn for the worse in our food products and everything else that is available at stores and fast food. And so thank you for what you do. Um,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's isn't it funny how now like the snack aisle is like 3 aisles, 3 or 4 aisles? It's really crazy. I'm always fascinated that, no matter what new diet trend there is, what's the first category of that diet trend that shows up on the shelves? It's snacks and desserts. Always. Doesn't matter what kind of diet it is. They're even trying to figure out carnivore desserts. Like
yeah.
that's the big thing. So
How do
it's
we make it
interesting that,
appealing for people that people just need sugar, they need snacks, they need, yeah,
yeah, it's fascinating. I talked to like for the last 20 years, I've really come to realize that we all define health differently. And the marketplace has what I call the the illusion of health. So they make it seem like it's such a healthy product because it's paleo or it's keto or it's this. But, as we all know, it's like if it doesn't matter if it's brown rice syrup, cane sugar, it's all still sugar. You know what I mean? And it's still even questionable if some of those sugar alcohols, what they do to our body. I mean, it's all still so new. So that's why I really love um, if you guys will indulge, I'd love to present a slideshow just where we're talking about, well, first of all, feeling recovery, but where we're really talking ultimately about trying to tap into our ancestral knowledge of what we should be eating, because we're the only species in the world that looks to someone else to tell us what to eat. And there's like 9 million species, so that kind of puts it in perspective that we probably knew at one point. We probably
yeah,
did, but we've kind of mucked it up. So I'll go ahead and start the slideshow if that works, and then we'll have lots of time for Q&A after.
sounds good.
All right. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see
Yeah,
this.
it is up.
All right. Um, so yeah, I'm a chef of 20 years, and I am also a father. I have two girls, and as I mentioned, I'm a recovering picky eater. So hopefully that will make you feel safe. So a long time, imagine, a long time ago, if you will, that we were part of a small tribe, right? And depending how long ago we're talking, we were either foragers, but then we became scavengers and eventually predators. And this is the time period of our biological foundation, which is Homo sapiens. And this is also the time period of the evolutionary roots of our palate. And our palate is really important. It's not talked about a lot, but of course, there's aspects of it that we learn in school. But we're going to kind of delve into this because I think it informs a lot more than we give it credit for. So, our taste preferences have a very deep evolutionary origins. They're shaped by the need to identify nutrient rich and safe foods. So if you imagine back in the day, the ultimate question that needed to be answered was, is this food going to nourish me or is it going to kill me? It was kind of that simple. So bitter sensations, just like they do today, they alert us. Well, our ancestors, it alerted them to potential toxins. But even now, you probably noticed that the American diet mostly skews towards salty sweet. A lot of people don't have bitter foods in their diet, and you have to wonder if that's because they're so used to associating bitterness with evolutionary wise, like with something that's gross. But sweet flavors. they signaled high calorie sources of energy. And this primal wiring really, it still very much influences our modern food choices at a subconscious level. So to this day, our primal instinct is that if it has flavor, then that means it has nutrients. And this is a biological connection to our primal instinct, and it's called the lingual neural response, which is where taste communicates to our brain through neural signaling what it is that our body wants and needs. But the only way to really tap into this biological response or communication is to actually eat your food. You can't just swallow pills. You can't, get injected with have an IV vitamin thing and get that communication. It's going to always be a delayed communication. And so let's really talk about the roles that these tastes play. So sweet, really, what it's doing is it's ensuring that we have adequate intake of carbohydrates for energy to our body. That's really what it does. Sour, it prevents intake of toxic substances into the body. It also helps detect ripeness. And salty, to ensure adequate intake of salt to regulate our the amount of water in our body. Bitter, uh, I mentioned, to prevent intake of poisonous substances into the body. And then we have umami. And umami is the fifth unique taste. So the other four we all learned about in school, but umami was kind of discovered right around the late 80s, early 90s. And umami is kind of best thought of as savory. And there's lots of foods that are umami, but umami ensures there's adequate intake of protein because most proteins have umami. And protein, of course, is for proper growth and maintenance of the body. So the problem, though, is that our modern foods are causing havoc. They're derailing our innate knowledge of what our body needs because these ultra processed foods, with their added flavorings and the lack of nutrition from the processing, is confusing our bodies and destroying our palates. As I mentioned, standard American diet is salty sweet. So that's when you are dealing with that picky kid, that is really what you're dealing with. You're dealing with someone that's either focusing on texture because maybe sometimes, of course, if it's someone in spectrum, like texture is a really big thing. But most of all, you're dealing with a palate that needs to be recalibrated because it's skewed towards salty sweet. Um, but basically, we're running into this situation where like you can get something in the grocery store that tastes like a strawberry, yet it has no strawberries in it. And thus our body is confused because our body, once again, it's tasting a sweet strawberry and thinking, oh, there's nutrients coming, and then no nutrients come. And that's when we then start overeating and whatnot. And then we just get confused. And then, we also don't want to forget that these flavors have the power to elicit strong emotional responses, right? They're tapping into the limbic system of the brain, which is the primal connection influences our food preferences and shapes our daily dietary choices. So pleasurable tastes activate the release of dopamine, and a lot of people are just chasing those dopamine highs. They're creating a reinforcing feedback loop that drives cravings and consumption behavior. And when we chase these high rewards, when we basically we're just eating empty calorie, ultra processed foods. Have you ever noticed, like, for example, when you eat those, like a bag of chips, for example, you taste the first two or three, and thereafter you get no flavor. It's just you're chasing that crunch, the texture. So again, we're really battling with like out of like palettes that are messed up and then texture junkies basically. um but so let's talk about the salty, sweet, bitter, sour umami. So as you can see, this is where they show up on the tongue. And if we are wanting to change someone's eating habits, we really need to focus on getting these different flavors into their diet. And you want to think of it almost like you would a dog. If you were changing a dog's food, Let's say you were going from one kibble to raw or something like that. It doesn't really matter. As you probably know, if you're a pet owner, you have to go slow or their digestive system, they'll get diarrhea. They'll have really huge digestive distress. You have to go slow. So you want to do the same thing with a picky eater or someone that is in chemo and their taste buds are all messed up, or anything that's happening in terms of the recovery or pickiness. You just have to go slow, but you want to focus on getting each one of these flavors slowly into them. So the the key then is figuring out, well, okay, what are some of these? Um, you might want to expose, like, for example, with sour, you might want to think of like cultured vegetables, pickled foods, even sourdough breads. Those are sour, right? And sometimes with the pickled, like the cultured vegetables, don't just think you have to use the vegetable. You could just use the juice, and just lightly combine it into their food. And not so much at first that they notice. Just do ease into it. The tongue will still pick it up, even when it's subtle, and it will start to blossom that palate. So with bitter, you might want to think of like dark leafy greens, kales, broccolis, radicchio. Grapefruit is bitter. Ginger even has some bitter. Citrus peel, turmeric, sesame seeds, arugula. And one trick for getting some of these in there, like let's just say arugula. So let's just say your kid does eat pesto. Great. Well, instead of using all basil, half of it can be arugula. They won't know. So just do half and half if you make that from scratch. Umami. So think of umami as like anchovies, mushrooms, meat, cheese, organ meats, seaweed, tomatoes. Those are all very umami. And I don't think I have to cover sweet and salty. I think we all know those. Um, but this basically brings us to nutrient dense foods. So we're really, as you notice, all the foods I identified they're foods. They're ingredients. They're not foods that have ingredients, right? They're just single foods. And organ meats, one of the reasons why I like them so much is because they're high in vitamins and minerals. They come from nature, which is why we call them, Mother Nature's multivitamin. And then they're easily absorbed. So let's just unpack those three things because I think that's really key when we're thinking about recovery and our children's health. Oops, here we go. So, besides being like an excellent source of quality protein, um, organ meats they're high in vitamins. You can see on this list, they, inevitably they're always compared to this graph compares it to apple, carrots, and then red meat. But inevitably they'll be compared to like blueberries, kale, salmon. And it's really interesting because you'll notice on this graph, every other one has something that says like none. But the only one that doesn't is beef liver. And that's how it is with every food. There's always some food that is missing something. And beef liver always blows them out of the water. So it's just packed. It's one of the it is the most nutrient rich food in the world. And it provides essential vitamins, A, B12, folate, minerals, iron, zinc, selenium. It's a high quality proteins, of course, that support immune function, energy production, and tissue repair, which is obviously critical for kids undergoing cancer treatment. But what's really cool is there's also like, have you ever been told, here, take this supplement, but you got to eat it with food? And that's usually because it's fat soluble. Well, back in the day, they used to offer people iron, for example. And then they later learned, oh, wait, iron doesn't absorb unless it's specific type of iron, and then it's also paired with something else, right? And so there's a synergy that these vitamins and minerals need to be most absorbable. And what's beautiful is that if you stick with something found in nature, it's already synergized. So different from like synthetic vitamins made in a lab, the organ meats are naturally synergistic. The best example of this is like the combination of vitamin A, vitamin D, and K2 along with zinc and magnesium. So, like vitamin A in the form of retinol supports immune function, skin health, and vision, but it also works synergistically with vitamin D to regulate gene expression and balance calcium metabolism. Without adequate vitamin A, vitamin D can't function as effectively, and vice versa. So they really do go together. And these are both in organ meats. And you can also even get vitamin D from lard. So, like a lot of times when you're cooking liver, one of the best fats to cook it in is lard because bacon, or sorry, pork lard naturally has vitamin D. Um, K2, let's talk about vitamin K2. It ensures that calcium gets deposited where it belongs in the bones and teeth rather than in the arteries or soft tissues. So when you're getting vitamin D, um, from organ meats like liver and vitamin K2 from the animal fats in the organs, you're not just absorbing these nutrients, but you're also enhancing each of their effectiveness. Zinc and magnesium is also present in organ meats, and it's supporting enzyme function, reducing inflammation, and enhancing nutrient absorption. Zinc helps maintain healthy immune responses, while magnesium is essential for over 300 biochemical processes, including muscle function and nerve signaling. So, with these vitamins and minerals working together, they don't just perform individual tasks, they amplify each other's benefits, promoting more efficient healing, better energy production, and improved resilience against chronic inflammation. So it's a perfect example of how nature packages nutrients in organ meats in a way that's bioavailable and balanced for optimal human health. And when it comes to natural healing, the body needs nutrient density in a bioavailable form to repair tissues, balance hormones, maintain metabolic health. And organ meats provide bioavailable nutrients for literally every biological process in the body naturally. It does it completely naturally. In a world where many people are dealing with chronic inflammation, poor gut health, nutrient deficiencies, incorporating organ meats can help restore that balance and promote resilience. I like to think of it this way. Basically, eating organ meats is like giving your body the most efficient tools to heal and thrive. And as you all know, when we're dealing with something severe, we want efficiency. We don't want something that's going, um, that's not in, that's either going too slow where it's not effective. We want it to be gradual and gentle, but at the same time, efficient. But when we talk about awful, I don't want everyone just to walk away thinking, oh, I got to eat liver, because it's so much more than just liver. It's basically every part of the animal except bone and muscle is considered offal or organ meats. So that includes the liver, kidney, heart, spleen, lungs, testicles, ovaries, brain, eyes, the thymus and pancreas, which are also known if you eat them out as sweetbreads. Bone marrow is a really good one to get into the kids, and it's delicious. You can even make pudding with it. They won't know. Um, Tongue, lips, ears, skin, tail, blood, the stomach lining, which is also known as tripe, that shows up in a Mexican soup called menudo, and then the feet and intestines. And then there's also an ancestral concept of like supports like. That's another thing that we tap into when we eat all the whole animal versus just the muscle. And that idea is basically that, the part of the animal you're eating will support that part in you. And it's really fascinating. Like even heart, for example, beef heart, it's really high in CoQ10. And if you look at, well, when and you have any cardiovascular issues, what is usually in the supplements for cardiovascular issues? It's CoQ10. So there is this, it really does show up. I had a friend, I was at a conference, who came to me and said, my son has been having this respiratory thing going on for like months, and we have tried every natural thing out there, and it won't go away. And I'm like, well, but have you tried lung? And she's like, no. Oh my God. She called me, or she texted me 2 days later, and she said, it's gone. I gave them lung and it's gone. So there's not a lot of science proving this. There is some, particularly around glands. There are some studies where they've been able to identify, like for example, if you are missing your what's the one that they're always pulling out of people these days, creates bile. Um,
Gallbladder.
but ba
Gallbladder.
Gallbladder, thank you. Yes. So they have done studies where they're showing like when people have gotten their gallbladder removed, if you actually use if you take a supplement with the glandular in it, it will support the gallbladder. So so they are seeing this kind of like supports like around glands, but not a lot of studies have been done. But it's definitely an ancestral concept and one that has been around. I mean, Native Americans definitely followed it. Chinese still follow it. I mean, it's been around thousands and thousands of years, this concept. So I personally think that proves it. But you know, and what's it going to hurt if you eat parts of these animals? There's not a lot of negative. There's really no side effects if you just have a little. The only side effects you could have is if you get too much. But I could argue with that person and say, well, but your body won't let you eat too much as long as you're actually eating it. If you're taking it in capsule form, absolutely it could. But when you eat something, think about like when you put salt on your tongue. The first time we do that, it tastes really good. The third or fourth time, it literally doesn't taste good. Like the taste of the salt changes. And that's your body protecting itself, saying, hey, you're overwhelming me. Stop, stop. The same thing happens. Our bodies are so amazing. Same thing happens when we try to lift something that's heavier than what we can lift. What happens to our grip? It fails, right? You can't lift it. Your grip literally gives out. That is your body protecting itself. So these communications are happening all the time. We're just, sadly, we're not listening. We're not listening. So okay. So I get it that getting your kids to eat organ meat is pretty challenging. And that is why I created this. I mentioned I'm a father, and so what happened for me that really spurred this was that my two daughters, when my youngest was 1 and my oldest was 4, they got Shiga toxin, which is a form of E. coli, and it's deadly for the elderly and for young kids. And my oldest, it passed. You can't hold anything in, like nothing. Like everything they ate, nothing was, everything left their body, and you cannot give them antibiotics. It actually can kill them if you do. It's one of those things that you just have to hope that it passes, and then if it doesn't, you got to take them in and potentially get IVs, and it can get a little bit more intense. But it passed after like 3 days for my oldest, and then I had to my youngest, it was like she was on day 5 and she was already really tiny, and I left thinking she was on the mend, and I came back from a work trip 2 days later and she was skin and bones. It was terrifying. She was still in it. It lasted 10 days for her of not being able to hold anything. It was that moment that we've all gone through, which is, you know, fear and being afraid. And that was the catalyst for this, because I kept she eventually pulled out of it, and the thing that pulled she started eating was toast. And then she got addicted to toast because of course the thing that doesn't make you sick is now the thing you only want to eat, right? And I just kept thinking to myself, oh, toast, it's just so not nutritious. And I just kept thinking if there was something I could sprinkle on there that would give her better nutrition and just make me feel better that by about what she's eating. And then I of course identified, well, what's the most nutrient dense foods, and then eventually came up with this. But for why I like it, well, first of all, so Pluck is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's 5 freeze-dried powdered organ meats, liver, kidney, heart, spleen, and pancreas. They're sourced from 100% grass-fed pastured cows, and then I combine them with organic spices and herbs. So it's literally we help to offset that ick taste of the organs, and now you just simply salt anything. Anything you can salt, you can pluck. And now they're getting the micro dosing of the organ meats every time they eat, and it's a cumulative effect. And we've gotten lots of feedback that all people do is pluck, and they see the benefits. They see them health wise, they see them in their tests, they see them in their pregnancies. Like it's incredible, you know, this idea, and I really stress that for everyone, is that we don't need to do huge movements. Little movements matter. We just want those little movements to be efficient. And when you have something as absorbable and available, bioavailable as organ meats, it's efficient. And why I like this option for you as well is that it's versatile. And as you know, we have to come at our kids in these young ages from all different angles, because they're not, you could get in your head like, I'm going to give it to you like this, whatever it is that healthy thing is, and they'll be like, nope, not going to happen. So you have to be able to come at things with versatility, and and kind of be able to pivot when you want. Like, and what's beautiful is, like, you see, this is my youngest daughter with the brown hair eating it in popcorn. You could put it on pizza. My older daughter putting it with the blonde hair, she's putting it on avocado toast. Like, you literally could put it on anything. And so I like that for everyone here, because we have to be nimble like that. And the other beautiful thing too is that it increases the flavor of everything you add it to. So not only are they getting the good nutrition, but they're all the food tastes better. Like, we can't even eat popcorn without it now. Popcorn tastes plain without Pluck. But Pluck is in no way the only option. You know, you have things like these ancestral blends. Force of Nature is just one brand, but there's a lot of them, and they're usually in the freezer aisle. They're usually about 7 to 10% of organ meat. Um, so it's not a huge amount. And then obviously you're limited to every time your own, you know, you have to be eating a lot of ground meat to get it. But, you know, if you did this once a week, you'd be okay. You don't have to do organ meats every day, unless it's in the pluck form, because then it's micro amounts. So you want to, you know, you do want to do that every day. But this you could do once a week, and that would help to also, it's a low enough blend. Like, I find the Force of Nature, you don't taste it very much. Maybe the very sensitive palate might, but if you're if you kind of like this concept, you can always, we also, Pluck has a blend, or it's called Pure, and it's just the organ meat. So you could also create your own, and then that way you could ease into it a little slower than some of these ground meats. And I recommend you just do like a teaspoon of Pluck Pure is equal to 2 ounces of organs. So you do not need a lot. So literally, if I was doing a pound of meat, I would only put a teaspoon of Pluck Pure. But there's another option. You can also literally create your own blend of ground meat with organ meat. So what you could do is you can buy a frozen liver. You can get that at your grocery store, the farmer's market. You could even go to like international markets, like Asian markets or Mexican, and they'll usually have them as well. And then what you do is you'll buy it, it's frozen already, but if it's not, stick it in the freezer. And then every time you're making any ground meat, it does not have to just be beef. It could be turkey, it could be lamb, it does not matter. You just grate it. Use a box grater, grate it. And the ratio you want to do, because I found that you really can't go over like 20, 25%. So what I recommend is, for every pound of meat, you don't go over like a fourth of a cup. So I would start with like 1 tablespoon of grated liver. That's it initially. And then you can get your way up to two, and then, you know, eventually to four. But if you go too much, it will change the texture of the ground meat. The actual texture will get a little slimy, and then the ground meat will have a flavor to it. And now you're in, you know, new territory, because your kids probably won't like that. Um, but what I do like about this is that you can put it in any ground meat. So it's a little bit more versatile, because once again, we're trying to look for versatility here. It's a little more versatile than the other blend, because then you're stuck with whatever they've already combined it to. Now, a really great option. So over in the right of this image, those are chicken hearts. Chicken hearts are a really great first organ to try with kids and with yourself too. And what you do is when you buy them, they're usually in these like containers, like deli containers, and they'll usually be like 10 or 15 in there. As you can see, they're kind of small, like a mushroom. So if you're making, let's say, a spaghetti sauce, just treat them like you would mushrooms. So if I were making a spaghetti sauce and I was combining mushrooms, I wouldn't put in 10 mushrooms unless it was a mushroom sauce. I would probably put in one or two, right? And then you just chop them up and throw them in. And then the whole sauce isn't like about the mushrooms, they're just integrated. The same thing with the chicken hearts. Just take one or two, chop them up really small, throw them in there where they're not the dominant ingredient. It's a very low ratio. But because keep in mind, we're mostly trying to focus on helping the kids get the palates changed so that they'll accept the organ meats. So it's not about like, I got to get all the nutrition. It's just ease into everything. And you will find no one will know that what it is. They'll actually probably think they are mushrooms. So um, those are really good. And then on the far left, that's a pate. That's another option. So there's cookbooks out there. There's lots of you can go to our website. We've got tons of recipes with organ meats. That's eatpluck.com. So there's a lot of options out there, but the key is to do it gradually. And I want to go back to texture because it's really important to think about when you're trying to support your children as they're in the process with cancer treatments or just even just in general, even if they're not dealing with that. Texture is huge. It's the physical sensations, it's the emotional connection, it's the aesthetic appeal. And I have found in my 20 years that there is not one way to cook everything. Like if inevitably like I'll meet someone and I'll be like, hey, what's the one food you just don't want to eat? And they'll be like Brussels sprouts. I'm like, okay, how were those prepared when you were growing up? Oh, well, they boiled them and it was this pale green and it was mushy and oh, it was so gross. And I'm like, okay, no problem. But are you willing to try a Brussels sprout but cook differently? Yeah, I guess so. And then what I do is I cut them, I coat them in some fat and I roast them and they come out like chips. So now it's a completely different texture. It's salty, it's a brighter green. You know what I mean? So we want to really play with texture as much as possible because it's going to help to reshape that palate. How you cook something is everything. You know, that's why so many people like barbecue versus boiling, right? Boiled meat or stew meat is soft, right? Whereas barbecuing is usually sugary from the barbecue sauces, it's crispy. So just notice what textures your loved ones gravitate towards, and then those are that you want to prepare those healthier foods that way. And you can really, let's just say if that person loves chips, like you could basically turn most things into chips, even beef. You can even like cut it really thin and make beef chips in your dehydrator or something like that. So it's like don't underestimate what you can do with a chip. But let's just talk about like this is something I love sharing with people is that if I were to do a food pyramid, see everyone's always focusing on what foods are in that. I want the vegetables, the carbs, the fruits, and they're always picking where those go. But I like to focus a little differently. Um, because I want us to reconnect with our ancestral palate and our ancestral knowledge of what we need. And so my kind of way to tap that is you got to start with flavors that are found in nature. So not foods that have added flavors, but just have it be real food, right? That has natural flavors. Um, and make sure it's covering all those flavors we pointed out. It's possible the salty, sweet, bitter, sour, umami. And you can always elevate all your meals with umami from like organ meats, for example, and spices and herbs. Like pick ones that have umami and it will always brighten the other flavors because it's a unique flavor. And then in the middle, you're choosing nutrient dense foods. So uh, once again, real food, but key is nutrient dense. And then that's the bottom one that is the one that I think we most struggle with in modern times is just focus on the mindful eating. So what does that look like? You know, connecting with that sensory experience of the food. Um, we have to remember the body doesn't lie. So if we eat slow enough and actually eat sitting down, parasympathetic mode, you will feel how the food you're eating is going in your body. So you'll start to either feel bloated if it doesn't work. You might feel digestive distress after you eat something. Like you want to be mindfully just checking in with your body as you eat things. And even after you eat them, like I'll share even personally, like a week ago, I was, I don't know if I was eating differently, or if I was on a specific diet or anything like that, but I was gassy and I was like, what is going on? And I would not stop. Like it was so bad for a few days. And I'm like, what am I eating? And then I realized, oh, wait. And had started eating those David bars, these very high protein bars. And I was like, I wonder if it's that. And I pulled it out and now I'm not gassy anymore. So it was like, okay, by me mindfully checking in with my body and acknowledging and looking, not looking outside of myself for answers, but looking inward and going, well, how do I feel after this diet? How do I feel after this food? Because a lot of, everyone can get on their high horse about, well, this is the diet that's everyone should be eating. It's like, but your body will not lie. So if it's not working for your body, you just got to listen and get off the idea that your brain has the answer. No, let your body tell you the answer of what works or doesn't work. And I just can't stress enough. This is my firstborn, but I cannot stress enough that, the modern world supports, cancer in the with modern tech healing techniques, right? That are very intense and traumatic. And it's a lot. Everything you're all going through, your kids are going through, it's a lot. These kind of modern healing techniques. And so I just want to be that voice and encouragement that maybe we can offset the modern techniques with ancestral foods. That it's not about trying to become a cave person again or anything like that. It's just about like let's try to offset things. So let's go back to, focusing on things like touch, eating at the table together with no electronics, minimizing sound, you know, making sure to put our forks down in between bites so that we're not eating too fast. One tool that we've been using at home is we have a deck of cards on our dinner table, and it's so interesting because we lost the deck for like a month or two, and it completely changed the dynamic of the dinner table. Like now we actually, even when we're not eating, we sit at the table and we'll play some cards. And it becomes this activity that we all are centered around. Like we all do it. And it's either gin rummy for those of us older or it's go fish. It doesn't matter. It's just an excuse to just kind of sit there without a device. And then when we lost them, we left the table faster. So it's really fascinating how these little things, going for walks as a family after we eat, just simple little things can help to offset the other intense modern things that are going on in our lives. So I want to give you all something free, and if you can take a shot of this, because I have another slide of this, but anyone watching, just scan this and you'll get our 21 days of real food. We say school lunches, but honestly, it's good for adults too. It can be anybody. Um, but feel free to take that. We did this with a really great organization called the School of Lunch. Um, and that's Hillary Boynton. And so this is a collaborative project, and we're just both very happy to share that with you. And feel free to share that with anyone you'd like.
I love
Um,
this small world. So we actually had Hillary Boynton on just a few months ago.
yeah, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're good friends. and they use Pluck all the time with their kids at the schools. And then I just have a favor is I ask that please keep in touch with us. Like there's so many different ways, touch points. So we have an Instagram account. You can scan it there to follow us. We have Facebook. And then we also have a podcast. It's called Everyday Ancestral, and it's been really fun. It's a newer podcast. We started in November, but I think we're getting some really good interviews. Dr. Bill Schindler was on there. Um, um, Gosh, I mean, so many people have been on there. Carolyn, um, the modern, whatever, the homesteading family, Carolyn Thomas was on there. Just a lot of really cool people that are making lots of differences in people's lives, and so please check it out and share it. And it's a touch point. It's kind of it's a communication a way for you to communicate that you like what we're putting out there. And then if you should want to get some Pluck, um, here's a code, and you can even scan that, and then it will take you to this site, and then you can use the Kick Cancer code and save 20% off your first order. Yeah, so thank you all. And now I'll stop this and we'll answer other questions.
And I just want to let everybody know that when you support Pluck, you actually support Kid Cancer too, because we are a part of their affiliate program. So anytime you purchase through with our code, we get a little bit of a kickback too. So they are
Yeah.
big supporters of Kid Cancer. We include their sample packets in our kits that we send out. So if anybody has not gotten one of our kits on this call, please let Shannon and I know, and we'll make sure we get you one. Or if you're in San Diego, pretty soon you'll be able to pick it up at our new location.
Yeah, that's right. They'll be selling it
Yes,
there.
yes.
Save
So
on
we are,
shipping.
I said this at the beginning, but I know some more people have jumped on, but I have two girls as well who are extremely picky eaters. And I sprinkle this on everything that I can, everything I can get away with. And they love it. I haven't told them what it is, but they love it. So, I mean, it is, I mean, exactly what you said, James. It's just a really easy way to um, just make a small difference. And I think that's one thing that can be overwhelming is like, especially with a cancer diagnosis, it's like, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to do it all at once. Just something as
Yeah,
simple
what
make a big difference.
one of the things that I love and that I we get feedback around is that there's with anything that's new, it's a new habit, right? And so inevitably when you have a bad day, what happens to those new habits? You don't do them. They just fall off. And sometimes it's really hard to get back on the wagon once you fall off. And what I love about this, and I didn't know this when I created it, I mean, this is something that I later connected the dots, but it's no new we already season our food.
Yeah.
It's not a new habit. We're just saying, okay, instead of using this, use that. And now you're getting all the vitamins and minerals that you're not getting normally. And what's great is because it tastes good and because it's easy, we also know that that means you could be having a hard day. You could be COVID 5.0 could be going on, doesn't matter. It's like you're still going to use it because it's not a new habit and it's easy and it's delicious. And so I look for that now. Like I look for those kind of qualities in these health advances or these things that I adopt because I know that we're all human and we all know this. We all have days that go sideways. And even I mentioned how you can sprinkle on pizza, like that's a reality, right? How many of us don't have those days where it's like, oh, we didn't meal plan. I don't have anything in the refrigerator. I'm done making decisions today. Let's go get pizza. And then you kind of feel like I'm giving my kid pizza for dinner. You feel a little like I'm not a good parent. Well, guess what? Bring your Pluck, sprinkle it on there, and you actually feel like a good parent again. You're like, yay, I just got
I
organ
agree.
meats in.
I sprinkled it on Chick-fil-A last week on their French fries and their chicken nuggets.
Right? And didn't you feel so
Yeah.
much better about that
Yeah.
decision? That's how I feel. Like I'm like, yay, because we need more wins as parents. We don't need more losses. Like we need wins.
Yes. And I mean, being a parent is hard when your child is healthy, let alone when they are going through cancer. So, I mean, any way that you can simplify. Simplify
Yeah.
things. Great. Okay, I have a quick question and then everybody else can. Where would one get a lung? Like where, and that is so interesting because I actually have a friend who's having those respiratory issues and I want to be able to tell her.
Um, well, I can I have some I can send you. I can't send to everyone, so
My lung, that's my lung.
you and I have met and ta our talk, so it's like I can personally send you
Yeah.
some. But I don't have enough to give everyone that
Where
watches
would
this some.
somebody, is there
Yeah,
market or,
we're gonna eventually be adding it to our blend.
oh, you will,
That's
okay.
soon. But you can also, I think Heart and Soil sells it in capsule form, and I think Ancestral Supplements as well. Basically your only option is either to be go to a like a Mexican market. They might have it there. The only thing is that they will well, no, I'm sorry. They usually have the stomach lining, not the lung, but they might have the lung. Um, but really, the only option is to get it in capsule form, and it is pretty strong tasting. But I'm kind of taking that like supports like concept very seriously. And so I mentioned our blend right now has liver, heart, kidney, spleen, pancreas. Well, you might be like, well, why those, right? Well, like for example, pancreas has natural digestive enzymes in it. So by adding pancreas, not only do you get the nutrients in it, but now you also, it's helping you to digest your food. So we're building in the mechanisms that we need by using real food. So no longer do you have to take those pineapple enzymes or whatever they are, right? Um, and so I'm now thinking, well, we're going to add lung to that mix because more and more people are having respiratory issues. So why not we just continue to test this theory of like sports like it's not going to necessarily add tons of nutrients because the lung doesn't have tons of nutrients, but it might add some property, some cellular property that we're needing, you know? So I'm kind of like Switzerland in that way. Like I'm like, well, if it's gonna help, I think it's worth trying. I don't get squeamish about that stuff because I don't see the downfall. Like it's not gonna hurt you to eat lung. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah. So
And
those
I
are
feel
really
like
the only ways is
respiratory,
capsule, and then eventually we'll have it as well.
I just feel like, I don't know if everybody feels this way, but I feel like the respiratory illnesses
It's
are just
increasing.
lasting forever
Yeah.
too. And just people are constantly like complaining about it. So I think that's an amazing idea.
The other one we're going to be coming out with is brain. Um, so brain has gotten a bad rap because of the mad cow, you know, many years ago, early 2000s, I think. And it's like it's it's not true. I mean, brain is something that the world still eats, not just cow, but goat and monkey and like all types around the world. But you know, brain, if you grew up on a farm, like you ate brain with egg, like you ate brain all the time. And it's a delicious fatty organ. And it's one that's really great for when you get it from a healthy animal and it's great for kids. But so we're going to be coming out with one that is cinnamon brain. So it's going to be because brain is slightly sweet. And so we're gonna be having a cinnamon mix with a little nutmeg and a little sea salt, and then people will be able to add it to like their warm drinks, or I've been adding it to smoothies in the morning, and it's delicious. And I do feel like I'm getting smarter. No, I don't know. I can't prove that yet, but I do. I feel very focused on the days I use it. I don't
That's
know.
amazing. You could put on your kids' toast, the kids that only eat toast.
Yes, like cinnamon French toast or cinnamon
Yeah.
toast. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I know a lot of people are nervous about that. So we're not going to add it to our blend because I don't want to keep people from using Pluck if they are nervous about brain. But we're going to make sure it's tested and have no pyrons. Um, and I believe though when you get food from healthy animals, the food is healthy. If you feed animals, sick animals, you can't expect them to be healthy. And that's what was happening when mad cow happened. You know, it was had
Yeah.
to do with how they were raising and feeding those cows.
Yeah, we always like to say it's not what you eat, it's what you eats
Eats. Yeah.
that matters, and whether or not they were healthy to begin with. Um,
Absolutely. And we can't let, conventional modern techniques or living dictate the narrative. Like we have to remember, when we have governments and modern, modern, or even like the media, telling you like, oh, any like doing this natural thing, whether it's, um, through viruses or it's through eating real food. And I mean, I remember doctors used to say, don't breastfeed your child. Like it's not natural. Like whenever the narrative is don't do the natural thing, you got to be questioning, well, what is the motivation here? Because the natural thing is what created us. So I'm just always suspect that it's usually financial motive to try to get people off what's natural. And so what I'm trying to do is create ways. I'm trying to use the modern preservation techniques to help us get these ancestral foods into. So I do think there is a way to use modern techniques, but I don't think we should be throwing out these very natural, real foods in the process. I mean, and you can see it. You all know what I'm talking about. Like more and more of these isolates are coming out, like all these kind of powders and all these kind of drink mixes, and they're all pieces of something that maybe was found in nature. But I'm like, no, no, I want the whole food,
yeah.
not the piece.
I um I actually had listened to just a clip of one of your podcasts where you were talking about bone health and the Pluck seasoning. And that got me thinking about, like you said, offsetting potentially some of the treatment induced side effects. So, like we all know, chemotherapy is known to impact bone density negatively. And so, um, do you foresee possibility of, just supporting the system and offsetting some of these side effects?
Yeah, I mean, like liver and brain. So there's vitamin K2, which I mentioned earlier, but its crucial role is directing calcium into bones and teeth, rather than soft tissues like arteries. So without enough K2, even with adequate calcium and vitamin D, the calcium can end up in the wrong places. So K2 is kind of like a traffic cop for
Do you know
minerals.
that most of our oncologists, like the one supplement they always get these kids on immediately after diagnosis is vitamin D, but rarely do they say vitamin D3 with K2. Like
Yeah.
they don't typically include that. And so then yeah, of
And
course we
well, and also, as I mentioned earlier, vitamin A with vitamin D,
mm,
right? Synergy. So yeah. I mean, and like I said, like, sometimes I want to be gentle about this because, you know, I don't want to be one of those people saying that science is off, but I just think that we have to remember we're always learning, always. Like I use this when I'm talking on podcasts, like, George Washington. So the science of that day was to bloodlet when someone was sick. And George Washington was bloodlet and it killed him. But that was the science of the day. And they only realize now, like through looking through DNA stuff, they're like, I think he only had the common cold. Had they not bloodlet him, he probably would have gotten past it. And so then you think, if then you skip ahead and just look at every decade, like what was it that we didn't know? What was the theory of that decade that we followed to a T, and how many people did it help, but how many people did it hurt? And I just think that there's not one food, there's not one modality that works for everyone. There like I you could basically, even with organ meats, you can get too much, right? Like, so there, every food you can find the pro or the con with it. Even broccoli, even spin, like everything has its advantages or disadvantages. And that's kind of why I'm like, well, I like to try to keep it as natural as possible when I can. And I also like to try to eat it because I know if I eat it, my body will protect me from, because even like liver, for example, for the person that has too much, like, so this is a little delicate, but like the concept is like, okay, most people will try organ meats and they'll go ew, right? But are they saying ew because of the texture and because it's an unfamiliar taste? Or or is the taste really strong because they don't need that food? And it's really hard to tell sometimes when it's a new food. But I guarantee if you are someone who is regularly eating organs, and then one day you go to eat liver and you're like, "Ah, it just feels too strong." And you're just instinctively, that mother's instinct is just telling you, like, I don't want to eat it today. That is the communication. I'm good. I don't need whatever it's giving me today. And so it's a mixture of like listening to the body, listening to those instincts. They're godly. What's the difference between any of us? It's our instincts. That's the only thing. Your instincts are different than mine. And that is the one thing that distinguishes me from you. That's really it. And so I really do believe that we have to trust those, and as I see there's a lot of women on the call, it's like you mean better than me. Like, for example, when you were giving birth, no one knew more than you in that moment. And even when people were saying like, "Oh, do this, do that," you were like, you instinctively knew what to do. And that is the power of being a woman. That's the power of being a mother. And it's like, and to this day, you're still biologically connected to those children more so than any husband will ever be. So it's like these instincts are key. Like we have to trust them and build off of them. So I'm a real advocate of like like keep it natural and then trust your instincts and go slow. Go slow enough so that you can hear the messages.
That's beautiful. Um, I have one more question, then I'm going to turn it over to everybody else because I know we're getting at our time right here. And Dana's going to start telling me to stop talking. So, um, but organ meats tend to have a profound effect on blood platelets as well. And through chemotherapy and everything else, that's one of the things that making sure that our blood counts are back to even start the next cycle. And so in between, sometimes the kids need infusions and everything else. So do you have any, you know, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, spleen is really like so with blood, you want you want lots of oxygen going into the body, and I'm not talking like just through the air. I'm talking like into the cells, right? Um, but in red blood cells as well, and spleen is actually um, very high in red blood cells. And so that's a really good one to add to a diet when you're in that circumstance. But I'm looking, I have just looking for that where I put it. I have some more information on the blood as well. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, so low blood platelets. So they're obviously common during treatment, but vitamin B12 is folate, iron, and vitamin A, all of which are abundant in liver as well. And spleen I mentioned earlier. But these nutrients are going to support the bone marrow function and red and white blood cell production, which is critical, obviously, for recovery and immune resilience. Organ meats are also rich in choline, zinc, and vitamin C, which a lot of people don't know. Spleen, for example, has vitamin C, and these all help repair tissues, reduce inflammation, and support liver detoxification, which is vital when, the body is working to clear out chemo drugs and cellular waste. Um, but from a long-term perspective, the nutrients help rebuild strength, regulate hormones, support gut health, and then they reduce the risk of future chronic issues as well. So instead of, relying solely on supplements, organ meats are going to offer a food first approach that delivers these nutrients in forms the body can easily use. And once again, we go back to what I said during the slide, which is we want it to be effective. Like when we're doing, what's the thing that you hear the most when you're taking lots of supplements is you hear people say, oh, you have expensive pee, right? Like a lot of it, I know like when I take my supplements, I have to pee a lot. Like I walk my daughter to school every weekday. And if I take my supplements right before we leave, oh my God, I have to pee. So, because it's about an hour, the whole process. And walking home, I have to pee so bad. But if I don't take the supplements, I don't have to pee so bad. So it's like clearly, when you're getting a rush of certain nutrients or vitamins, it's your body will only allow for so much and it will want to push out. And that's why, we want things that are more efficient. I want to stress too, because I think this is a community that will understand this more so than others. But there's this very American concept of like go big or go home, right? It's like, I, one of the questions we get asked all the time is like, but how do I know I'm really getting enough organ meat? It's like, well, what's enough? Like, I remember I was talking to this couple and the woman was 5'2" and the guy was I think he was 6'8", and he was a monster compared to her. And it was like, I'm like, they were like, well, we're both taking the organ meat capsules, and I'm like, cool. How many are you each taking? Oh, we each take 6. I'm like, what? Like, h- you both need the same amount? Like, how is that even possible? Right? It's like there's this idea of like, well, but the bottle says 6 to 8. It's like, yeah, but they're just trying to sell a bottle. Like, the only one that really knows is your body. And this idea that we need tons of organ, like I think Paul Saldini says, we need 2 ounces of organ meat a day. It's like, what? Who? How does he know? Like, who came up with this? Like, is there anything that you need 2 ounces of a day? Like, you know what I mean? I don't get it when people give these absolutes of like, this is how it is. It's like, it is? Because I know someone down the street and that's not how it is for them. Like, so how is it for, so there's just this disbelief to me when people are trying to push a specific narrative. And while I'm saying that I believe organ meats are the most nutrient dense food on the planet, I'm not telling you that you have to get it this way. I'm not saying you have to not do supplements. I'm not saying you have to do Pluck. I'm just saying let's get it in our diet and let's do it in the most natural ways possible. And let our body tell us how much it needs or not. And I find personally, and this is really why I brought this up, which is I find personally that when I get small amounts of something, my body can handle it better. So I think of it like a sponge under a sink. So if the sponge is our body and the sink is whatever we're doing, life, or the food we're eating or the supplements we're taking, if I drip that water onto the sponge, it absorbs everything, and it also doesn't fall out of the sponge. Like this, the sponge holds it if I drip it. But if I turn that faucet too fast, too high, too strong, it saturates the sponge and then just starts dripping water into the sink, right? And I believe that's what we're all doing when we do anything in excess. We're just dripping it out. We're overwhelming our systems. I don't think our bodies were designed to do that. So I like micro dosing. Like I like small amounts of things. I like smaller portions, and um, just being more mindful of those kind of things. It's gentler on the body too.
And when we're comparing supplements versus food, because I've had this question before, is if it's contraindicating with any of the medications or things that they're doing for that. And I'm like, it's food. It's not a supplement. This is real food. And so just wanted to put that out there.
Oh, totally. And it's so interesting too. Like we had someone reach out to us who was like, I'm taking this B vitamin. I think they listed like four or five different supplements they're taking. And they're like, Ken, I get off these if I start doing Pluck, and how much of Pluck will meet these amounts? And we were like, I was like, customer service is like, how do I answer this? I'm like, tell them we're not a doctor. like, like that. I mean, like first of all, who's telling them they're supposed to be taking those? Like most of the people out there are taking things undiagnosed. They're self-diagnosing, right? And they're assuming that they need certain amounts because they've listened to some influencer on social media who's saying that this is what it is. And it's like I'm a big believer of like you get tested. If you're someone who wants to know specifically, get tested by a either a functional nutritionist or a naturopath, like someone who can reads those tests the way that it most fits for your desired outcome. Because we all know genes may all be of the same material, but they all fit differently, right? So it's the same thing with health practitioners. It's like you got to find the one that fits the best for you, and I'm telling you, how they read those tests is everything. How they interpret those tests is everything. There's not one way to interpret it. There's no true standard there. So it's like, because doctors will look at it one way and a naturopath will look at it a different way and a functional nutritionist will look at it a different way. Probably more similar to the naturopath, but still they might look at it differently. So find the one that fits your desired outcome. And then if you're not ready to get tested, then eat the food and see how you feel and listen to your body.
Yeah. When in doubt, pluck it.
When in doubt, pluck it. Yeah. But
Um,
most of all, like I do stress, one of the biggest thing I think we all carry around, and we kind of touched on it earlier about feeling like, oh, I'm a bad parent because I just got Chick-fil-A or whatever it is, right? It's like, oh, it's like one of the things I think we can all just kind of collectively take a breath and just remember like we're human and we're still figuring it all out, this world, and just to be kinder to ourselves, in this process. Because I mean, I've been in this 20 years and I'm telling you, like I've seen trends come and go. But the one thing that is not a trend that doesn't come and go is just eat real food. Like that's the one thing that has never changed in 20 years.
does anybody else have any questions? You can unmute yourself. You can type it in the chat before Chef Barry goes off and does more brilliant things without us.
As we're waiting for anyone to unmute, I'll give you a little tip. This is a fun fact. If you want to impress anyone coming over to your house, okay, they're coming over for a dinner party and maybe you don't feel like the most confident chef, but if you want them to think you're an amazing chef, just start sauteing some onions on your stovetop. The smell, the aroma will fill your house. And as they walk through the door, they'll go, that smells so good. What are you making? Guaranteed. It's just saute. You don't even have to have the onions in the food. Just saute them, get the aroma in the household, and everyone will walk in going, "Gosh, it smells so good in here."
That is a good tip.
That is
Yeah.
actually one of my favorite things to add to a lot of stuff is that I'll always saute onions and garlic first before anything else. And
Oh, it's a
I do
great
get
way.
that reaction a lot.
Onions, like so sauteing onions and even caramelizing them is a great natural sweetener too of to savory dishes. I mean, you obviously you can use there's caramelized onion sweet things too, but it's like you can make gravies with it. It's a great thickener and it's brings out the natural sugars in the onion and like you can even blend it in dressings instead of adding sugar to the dressing, just blend in some caramelized onions.
it's funny when you said that about the spaghetti. So spaghetti is like my one dish that I'm really good at, like the one. I'm not a chef. But I had the sauce and I put so much like carrots and mushrooms but I like it bolognese style, it's like really, so I put everything through the,
Food
like right,
processor.
yeah, the processor. But I'm like, okay, the hearts, I could do that and my kids wouldn't even know because
Yeah.
everything's already like
It's already small, and throw it into the food
processed anyway.
processor
Yeah.
too. Throw it
Yeah.
in, but
I know.
just
So
key
I'm
is
gonna
don't
try that
do
next
too
time.
many. Don't do
Yeah.
too many. Just, you know, do like start out with just two, maybe four max, but no
And
one
then
will know.
afterwards be like, you just ate a chicken heart.
Totally. Well, and they're nat chicken hearts. What's cool about chicken hearts too is that they're mild, and some people would even say they're slightly sweet. So they'll add a depth to the sauce that isn't normally there, but no one will know why.
Yeah.
So you just be prepared. You might get like a lot of compliments that night.
I
That
can't wait
maybe,
to tell them why
yeah, you
after the
just be
fact.
like, everyone will just go like, "Mom, you're just blowing up here. You're like becoming this amazing chef. What's going on?"
Organ meats. That's the answer.
I think that's
Yes.
what I've found so helpful today too, James, is just those little bite-sized, pun intended, tips that you've given, right? Because I'm not a chef either, so I'm definitely going to try all the little things that you've done and Pluck.
Oh, well, let's cap it with a couple more then. Um,
Bring it on. We're going to be all
I
chef.
know. Now I'm gonna give you the kitchen sink here. So another tip to brighten any food, like just to make it just have more zing and just be better, is to add a little lemon zest. So to get a zester and just put a little bit, and it will just pop. It will make all the food pop. And then I would say lastly, if you're finding that you are buying salad dressings already pre-made, stop doing that because the ingredients are really bad in those store shelf stable dressings. And so here's the tip of how to make your own is you just follow a ratio. It's 3 to 1. And so if whenever you're doing with ratios, it's the key is just whatever your measuring of the 3 to 1, you just keep it the same. So let's just say it's a tablespoon, right? So you do 3 tablespoons of fat. So whatever oil you're using, could be olive oil, could be sesame, it doesn't matter, whatever oil you're choosing for that dressing. And then 1 tablespoon of acid, which could be lemon juice, could be balsamic vinegar. It's whatever, you know, bitter, vinegar you're using. 3 to 1, and then put it in a mason jar, shake it up, and you got salad dressing, and you made it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Easy.
Promise you, like balsamic vinaigrette, 3 tablespoons olive oil, 1 tablespoon balsamic vinegar, add a little salt, pepper. If you want to add some Dijon mustard, just a tiny bit, but shake it up, boom, done.
Oh, great tip.
Yeah, my favorite is using olive oil, lemon juice, salt and pepper.
Yeah, you could add a little nutritional yeast to that and even give it a little like cheesy nutty thing too. But yeah, and you can even add pluck to your dressing too. Like it adds a really nice flavor to the dressing.
It's so funny. While we were on this call, I just had a friend come over and say, "Hey, can I steal some lemons from your lemon tree?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have so many. Take them. I don't even know what to do with them all, but now I have a
Yeah.
now I do.
Oh,
Now I
it's
can
so
give
good.
away all
Yeah,
my
and
lemons."
dressings. So
Yeah.
good in dressings. Yeah.
This was amazing, James. Thank you so much for all these tips.
Oh, you're
And
all
just
very
for like,
welcome. And
I
thank
feel
you
like
so
my
much for
mind
having
is
me.
like,
And like I said, please keep in touch and share if you are using Pluck or if you're using any of these techniques, tag us and share, or you can even tag me, I guess, on Instagram. I'm at Chef James Berry, but tag and say hi. I think the louder we are about these concepts, the more people we can help.
I'll tag you the next time I make spaghetti sauce.
Yay. All right.
Thank you so much, James. This was awesome. Any
You
last
got it.
thoughts or anything, ladies and gentlemen? I think we have a gentleman. Well, awesome. I'm just so grateful for your time. I know we went over. I warned you ahead of time. We always go over. Oh, but we are just so grateful, not only for tonight, but for your continuous dedication and support of Kit Cancer. It really means a lot to all of us and our families. And we've gotten some really great feedback since we started including Pluck. So thank you for that.
Very welcome. Thank you all, and please, yeah, have a great night, and just know you're doing just know you're doing great work. Like I know it feels hard, but just believe it. Just know it in your heart. You're doing really great work. You're doing what most people avoid, which is like actually like getting your hands dirty and making change.
So true. Taking some control back.
Yep.
Amazing. All right, everyone. Well, have a great night. And thanks again, James. All right. See you guys later. Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah.